What is up, everybody? Welcome in to Daily Betslip, Wednesday, June 1st. Ben Heisler, Peter Dewey, we're going to be with you for the next 45 minutes or so, going through our favorite best bets of the night. We are getting ready for the start of the NBA Finals tomorrow, so plenty of conversation. I mean, Peter's on the show, he's Mr. NBA, so naturally, the conversation will drive us in the direction of getting ready for the Celtics and the Warriors. And I'm excited to talk to you about this, Peter, because as someone who is holding a Warriors ticket, actually both of us are holding a Warriors futures ticket. You've changed course. You're expecting Boston to come out and win this series. So we're going to have a little bit of a session here, try and figure out just when you came to the realization that this is going to be a series that you think Boston wins it all. So we'll dive into that as well. And of course, the game of the night, we got the Eastern Conference Finals game one between the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning 4 wins away from getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals, trying to make it a three-peat in that sport for the first time since I believe the early 1980s. However, we've seen 3 in a row. So it's a fascinating aspect. Plenty to dive into for today. Pete, how's your Wednesday been going? Have you gotten in on any afternoon action in baseball? I know that you were at the Yankees game last night. So nice big win for you and exciting times ahead.
Yeah, the Yankees game last night was awesome, man. You talk about like when you go to a baseball game, I feel like, and maybe it's just me, but like I always get, especially if I'm going to a Yankees game, because obviously I want the Yankees to win. If it goes like 3-4 innings and it's scoreless, you start to get the nerves of like, God, are we going to lose this game? Or is this going to come down to like, we're down 1-0 in the 7th inning? Like, you don't want that. The Yankees took all of those worries out of my hands yesterday because they scored 4 runs in the first inning, and it should have been 5 if Gleyber Torres' foot didn't slip off third base. And his AAA ended up being out. So it was, I mean, that was like the best way to start because you're up 4-0 right away. They're up 7-1 by like the 5th inning. Like it was over at that point. So that was a real fun game to be at. I'm glad that was the one I picked out of this series because I wanted to see Ohtani and Trout play each other. But I'm just excited for the NBA, man. This has been a long few days without any NBA games. Like starting to like creep into the back of my head that, come June 19th at the latest, we will not have any more NBA games for like 3 months, 4 months. So a little bit of a sad realization going on, but I think we're in for a fantastic final. So looking forward to it for sure.
So I know you're going to disagree with this, but BetSided sent out a tweet earlier today, and it had I think 9 different leagues that you could bet on. It says you have to choose 3. Which one would you choose? I left NBA off the list. And you want to know why? It's because I enjoy the product so much that the betting aspect of it is great, but like college basketball for me, I need the betting aspect of it. And that really kicked in for me in February when we really started to dive in after the end of the NFL season. NFL, obviously, you need to be able to have the betting component for it as well. And then baseball, just because you need something to get you through 162 over the course of the summer. So that was my reason for taking off NBA. But then I thought to myself, man, if this WNBA heater continues, we might have to find one of the other ones to replace it with. But that was a fun one. Which 3 did you end up choosing on the list?
So I took NBA, NFL, and college basketball. College basketball, I agree with you 100%. Like, I love basketball. I will watch any form of basketball. You could throw a high school basketball game in front of me, I'll probably still watch it. So I will watch any form of basketball. But college basketball, like, I know people don't agree with this take. It's a terrible product, dude. It is horrible basketball. Like, people who love college basketball because they say there's more defense played don't know basketball. It's just guys can't make shots. Like, that's really the difference. Like, you just have poor shooting. That's all it really is. Like, NBA guys make shots that just only those guys can make. That's why it's so amazing. I kept NBA in there, and I could watch NBA easily without ever betting on it again. I would watch still every NBA game. But I think it's more fun sometimes where like some of those random matchups where like it's a League Pass night and you got like Pelicans Rockets on League Pass. I'm like, yeah, why not? Like, let's make this a little bit more interesting than it is already. So that's the way I look at it. NFL, I feel like you just have to, like, there's nothing better than like an NFL Sunday. You put some bets in, get your fantasy team going. So, but it's tough because I didn't want to leave out baseball, but I left out baseball because I think it's the one I'm the worst at, just because it's baseball. There's so much
So much
variance.
inherent randomness.
And so there's times where at one point, I really think like all I'm trying to do in baseball is like my thing I'm going to do every day is I'm going to take like strikeout props, which is what I've been doing. Cause like I've been getting hot on some of those, but like sometimes you take these money lines or these run lines and you're like, this is a pitching matchup. Like it's perfect. And then they just lose. And I'm like, it's like, there's only so much you can do to handicap it.
No doubt. And that's why I kind of love the aspects of being able to go first 3, first 5.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the no run first inning and yes run first inning, and guys like Ian and Joe have done awesome work. Matt too, covering a lot of those articles for us over at BetSided and diving into it and making it super digestible for everybody. But there's still so much inherent randomness. I feel like with at least a couple times through the order, if you really do like the starting pitching matchup, you can jump on board. And I'll actually have one of my plays for tonight involving the starters in one of the games tonight. I do like a first 5 matchup. And I'll be honest, I stole it from our guy, Joe Summers, just because he's been hot with baseball this year. So looking forward to having that conversation with you for our best bets. That's coming up in about 3 minutes here on the show. But let's talk about a pretty sizable bad beat that came in extra innings last night. For anybody that was on board with the Giants and the Phillies, really, really rough go. It was a total of 9 on Monday. Jake Junis on the mound. You had a good opportunity, another good start for him. And we're looking at a game where it was 3-3 going into extra innings. You're like, all right, got 3 runs. I know you got a runner on second to kick things off. So each team scored a run in the 10th inning, right? So I brought it to 8. All right, at least if there's going to be one more run, we can push. We're going to be clear. Then, of course, the Giants dropped a 3 spot in the 11th inning, completely blew it out of play, and then you had to deal with just a whole heartbreak there by the time things ended up going down. And again, Jock Peterson, man, more home runs. He's starting fantasy beefs with Tommy Pham, got slapped across the face, and he goes out and goes yard. So kudos to Jock. Rough go for anybody that was hanging on to an under, especially knowing that you still had 3 runs to go by the time extra innings happened. It's really rough go in that case. I don't know if you had a bet like that so far this year.
No, that's a really bad one. That's tough. Just the extra innings of baseball is so tough with the runner on second now too, because I think like it's something that you obviously have to factor in when you're betting totals, but like before, normally you get a run in extra innings and like there's a pretty good chance you're winning the game because it took multiple hits or a home run to score a run. Now it's kind of like, we can get a productive out and a sacrifice fly and boom, there's a run. And so like you see these times where teams come out in the 10th inning or maybe it's the 11th and they both score. And that's just killer for totals. And Ben, just to mention it too, because I was thinking about it, I was at the Yankees game yesterday and it was 7-1 in the bottom of the 8th and the total was 8.5. And Jose Trevino, who I believe has 2 home runs on the year, hit a 2-run home run to push it over. So not ideal if you were on the under in Yankees Angels either.
No, not good at all. By the way, there is a no-hitter currently going on in Major League Baseball as we speak. The Oakland Athletics are currently being no-hit by the Houston Astros in the top of the 6th inning. Another play that our guy Joe wrote about, and that's Houston Astros unders. I think 12-1 over the last 2 weeks. Assuming that this score holds up, we could possibly be looking at a 13-1 run over their last 14 games. We'll continue to keep you posted on that game as well. But let's dive in, Pete, to our best bets of the night. You have a play in Major League Baseball, another strikeout prop. You and I are both on a WNBA game for today, and then another baseball one for you. So we each got 2 baseball ones and a WNBA play. So I will kick things off to you. Give me your 2 baseball bets of the night, or actually, let's just go a little back and forth. Tell me the one that you like the most as far as props go.
Yeah, so I'm going to take my first one is Michael Kopech over 4.5 strikeouts against the Blue Jays tonight. It's -120. I like Kopech a lot. He's been fantastic this year. Honestly, one of the best pitchers in baseball, definitely in the American League to start this year. You look at some of his numbers, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but Baseball Savant, just fantastic resource to kind of compare guys where they are, relative to the rest of the league. And Michael Kopech's in the 97th percentile in opponent batting average against. He's in the 96th percentile, I believe, in expected ERA, and he's in the 61st percentile in strikeout percentage. Now, I would love the strikeout percentage to be a little bit higher, but his fastball spin rate and his fastball velocity are both in the 79th percentile or higher. I believe the spin rate, he's in the 90th percentile or higher. So he's going to throw the ball. Like, he's just going to kind of go give you best on best with his fastball. He's going to throw triple digits several times in this game. And he's cleared this prop in 5 of his 8 starts this year. All 3 that he went under, he had exactly 3 strikeouts. So it's not like he's posting any 1 or 2 strikeout games. He's going to get you close to this number pretty much regardless. 39 strikeouts in 42 innings so far. The Jays strike out just over 8 times a game. So if Kopech gives you some length, like one of those starts he missed was his first start of the year. He only pitched 4 innings because he was on a pitch count. So last couple starts, he has a 6th inning. He went 7 innings against the Yankees the other day. So if he gets you into the 6th, 7th inning, I think 5 strikeouts, very doable. For a guy, he throws really hard, and as good as the Jays lineup is, there's a little bit of swing and miss in there. So I don't hate him on this number, especially when you have a guy who has electric stuff like Kopech. When you hang a number under 5 on a strikeout prop, it's super, super enticing. So I might have gotten trapped a little bit on this one, but I think he's going to be a good bet here.
I don't think you got trapped at all. He's had a remarkable season and one of the few bright spots right now for the White Sox in 2022. It's still a team that's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Talent-wise, I know they've dealt with some injuries, but they should get Lance Lynn back relatively soon. Wrote about that at BetSided the other day. I mean, you're talking about a guy with a 1.29 ERA this year. And even if you're looking at some of the advanced numbers, his fielder independent pitching is maybe a little bit higher. It's in the 2s. I think what's good about him is that he's found a way where he's not trying to overpower everybody anymore. He was, hyped up as somebody that was going to throw 102, 103 miles per hour. And the fastball's dropped a little bit, and he's going and actually pitching and changing some levels. And the breaking stuff has been really, really good. So it's a good opportunity for him. I think he can rev it up whenever he needs to. He's striking out, let's see, last year he was striking out about 13.4 guys per 9 innings, but he was also coming out of the bullpen a lot too. He's just a different pitcher, but he can get it up when he needs to. And it feels like a really easy number to climb. So I like that play quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When you have his stuff is just so good. I feel like he's a threat to go 7, 8 strikeouts on any night. So 4.5 seems very doable.
Let me give you my pitching prop of the night. And, for anybody that's looking for it now, it's kind of been fluctuating a little bit. Some books have it at 3.5, others have it at 4.5. I was able to get it, at 3.5 a little bit earlier, but there are pretty sizable odds. I do think it's worth it though, because I think the matchup is outstanding. And that is Mitch White for the LA Dodgers, over 3.5 strikeouts. He gets the Pittsburgh Pirates at home. Now, some of you might know Mitch White and might have looked at his numbers and go, why would I take a guy that hasn't even hit this number once this year? And that would be a very reasonable question. But it's only his 3rd start of the year. The other times he's pitched out of the bullpen. And they've stretched him out over the last couple games. So back on May 21st, he went 2 1/3 innings. Last time out, went 4 innings against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So he only faced 11 guys, 16 guys, through 49, then 61 pitches. Now, man, we're talking about arguably one of the worst offenses in baseball. The Pirates strike out at the 3rd highest rate in all of baseball. And the Dodgers right now are slumping a little bit. They actually kind of need Mitch White to get going. And he's somebody too that has 3 pitches that all grade out very, very highly. He was a 2nd-round pick back from 2016, developed in the Dodgers system, great swing and miss stuff. Strikeout rate right around 23%. Between the fastball, the slider, and the curveball that he can throw and get swings and misses on against a team that's full of swing and miss, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for him to go 5 innings tonight and get more than 3.5 strikeouts. If you're looking at it from the 4.5 level, you can get it at plus money. I know he hasn't gotten there yet, Peter, but this is somebody that has the ability to do so in a matchup that's set up for him to strike out a lot of guys, and they're stretching him out in the process. So if he can give you 5 innings, which is more than reasonable for somebody like him, I think he clears this number by a wide margin tonight.
Yeah, I like this a lot. You look at the Pirates' last 3 games, 11.67 strikeouts per game. They struck out 13 times last night. So clearly, like you said, a lot of swing and miss in this team. So if he only needs four or five strikeout, know you said it moved to 4.5 now, but I mean, seems very doable as long as he gets the innings. Like if they let him pitch 4 or 5 innings, I don't see why not.
Exactly. It's all going to be about whether or not he pitches himself into jams or if he's able to be efficient. It's not like he threw a lot of pitches the last couple times out too. And if you're going to stretch this guy out, if you're going to need him consistently in the rotation, you got to start moving him along past 60 something pitches. You got to get him at least to the 70s and 80s at this point, and I think they're prepared to do so. So those are each one of our MLB plays for props. Let's go into an actual side that we have. Peter, I'll start with you. I know you're looking at a little bit of AL East, AL West action over in Baltimore tonight. Who do you like there?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love the Baltimore Orioles tonight, plus 1.5. It's minus 125 at WinBet against the Mariners. It's Kyle Bradish against Robbie Ray, so not a great pitching matchup for the O's. But Ben, the O's at home been a lock this season. They're 16-8 on the run line at home this year, 14-7 on the run line as home dogs, and they're also 10-11 straight up as home dogs this year. So this Orioles team, honestly, to me, has been super surprising. The fact that they're 21-30 right now, I don't think many people expected them to, push more than like 50, 55 wins this year. They probably got a chance to win like 65, 70 games, depending upon, how the rest of this season plays out. But I mean, right now, we're about a third of the way into the year, and they're on pace for about 62, 63 wins. So not out of the possibility. And the thing I like about the O's, they're 6th in bullpen ERA. So I don't love Kyle Bradish in this start. He got rocked his last start. He gave up 6 runs in an inning and 2/3. But at the same time, if he gets roughed up early and they take him out, the O's bullpen has been extremely solid this year. So if it's close enough, I think they're going to be able to hang around, stay within 1.5 here. And then the other thing, the Mariners, I mean, before the year, I thought the Mariners, Ben, had a chance to win the AL West. I wrote about it in our season previews that they were like the sneaky bet to win the AL West. And they started 11-6. And I was like, okay, this young team, like a lot of young bats, a lot of young pitchers, they're here. Since then, 10-22. So they have not been good. So even though Robbie Ray's pitching, he has not been great this season after winning the Cy Young last year. So I'm fading them on the road. This O's team, they seem to hang around all the time at home. So I like them here, and you're not laying too much juice with them on the plus 1.5.
Yeah, I like the fact that you can get a little bit of leverage there, considering that it's only minus 125. Baltimore, like you said, 16-8 on the run line at home. They were at one point, I believe, in the month of May, so maybe a couple weeks or so ago, the best run line team in baseball. And we wrote about it over at BetSided. Now, you're right. Like, it's been a little bit up and down, and a few teams have taken over a little bit. But, I mean, the Orioles lose as many one-run games as anybody.
Yeah.
Now, they've also won some one-run games as well, but they're going to make it a lot closer than I think most casual fans who would look at their record, see them in dead last and, a pretty tough AL East and think to themselves that these guys are going to just be bums throughout the entirety of the season. They've pitched fairly well. Their bullpen at one point was, I think, top 7 in baseball. Again, falling back to earth just a little bit after a nice little run. But I do think they're in a good spot here, especially at home against Seattle. Might strike out a bunch against Ray, but he hasn't had that elite control that we saw from him a season ago in Toronto. So fully on board with the Baltimore play. As for me, I'm going with another AL East team. I like the Rays to be able to get it done in the first 5 innings tonight at minus 125 against the Texas Rangers. Jeffrey Springs, I know that our guy Reed Wallach pointed out that his ERA is really good, but his fielder independent pitching is due for a little bit of regression. He's also a guy that's starting to stretch out and also starting to pitch really, really well and a little bit deeper for them. And you have a Rangers team that has had all sorts of consistency issues, especially with Jonathan Gray. Like, that was a signing that a lot of folks had talked about as a possible upside play. He has a great arm, finally being able to get out of Colorado. He comes to Texas, and it's been the same story for him. His ERA is around 550. He's only pitched once at home, allowed 4 runs on 8 hits. it's a matchup that I think just suits Tampa really well. And especially knowing somebody like Springs, who's going to keep them in the game consistently. He hasn't allowed more than, God, let's see, 3 earned runs over the course of a start this year. Coming off of 13 strikeouts in his last 11 and 2/3 innings pitched. Texas will strike out fairly often. As long as you can control him in the first 5 innings, which is likely for where Springs is going to be involved, and maybe not have to go midway through the 3rd time through the order, it's a fairly reasonable price to pay, I think, to get him on the first 5 line.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I know the Rangers have been really good on the run line, but sometimes you got to look at these pitching matchups. Like you said, John Gray just has not been great this year. So I love a first 5 play when you're fading the starters. I think that's like more of how I look at baseball is like,
Yeah.
if you like a starting pitching matchup, like obviously you do this one, like that's probably the way to go sometimes because there's just so much variance in some of these bullpens. Like unless you're backing a bullpen that you know is really solid or has been really solid this year, like you don't really know where that game can kind of go. So if you just are in love with the starting pitching matchup, might as well take a first 5. And the Rays, obviously, they do it year in and year out. They're one of the best teams in baseball. So I like this a lot against the Rangers. Have looked better recently, but I feel like they're due for a little bit of regression. Like they've gotten back up to 500. It just feels like this might be a perfect time to start fading them.
All right, so those are our 2 baseball bets. We'll recap them in just a few moments. But you and I both on the same WNBA game tonight. Another day, another opportunity for the WNBA to get some love here on Daily BetSided. But we're on different plays for the game, not going up against each other. So we don't necessarily have to make one case versus the other. Tell me, as far as the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty are concerned, where you're going in this game, and then I'll go ahead and give you mine.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Fever +5 in this matchup. I just don't think the Liberty should be favored against anybody right now. When you look at what they've done this year, they're 2-6 against the spread. They're 1-7 straight up. They have the worst net rating in the WNBA at -17.8, which is just absolutely crazy through 8 games.
Awesome.
And the Fever haven't been much better. They're -9 in their net rating, but again, that's an 8.8 point difference. Like we're not talking like, oh, they're both at the bottom of the league, but there's still a major difference. Banaji Laney is out for this game. She's their leading scorer in the Liberty, and they've lost 7 straight games since she hurt her knee. So they're kind of in trouble at this point. I know they have Sabrina Ionescu, but like I don't see why they're favored by this many points. I know they're at home, and I know the Fever aren't that great of a team, but it seems like this is way too many points to give a team that hasn't won a game in 7 straight. I just can't see them winning comfortably. Like we talk about like the Aces, like last night played the Sun, 2 of the best teams. Aces won by 8. Like the Aces are comfortably the best team in the WNBA. They're not blowing people out every single night. Like there's some games that are going to be close. I'm not going to take the worst team in the WNBA to like win comfortably, even at home. So I like the Fever +5. I think they can hang around in this one.
Yeah, they're an interesting case too, because they just fired their head coach a couple games ago, got a big win, had their best offensive performance of the season, and then hosted the Washington Mystics last night. And I was on the other side of that. I like the under in that game because Washington has an elite defense. I've talked about this on the show. The moment that they held Ryan Howard to 0 points on the road certainly spoke to me. And I was really impressed with what Washington was able to do. But now the Fever go back-to-back, and that's an exhausting game when you not only have to go back-to-back, go from home and then on the road, and then do it against a team like Washington. The thing about the Liberty is not only do they play slow, and I should say, by the way, I'm on the under 164 in this game between the Fever and the New York Liberty. But I'm on the under because Indiana, they play at a really fast pace. They're the fastest paced team in the WNBA. But again, like they only put up 75 points last night against Washington. And now you're going into New York, who also play nearly as slow. Washington is dead last in the WNBA in pace, and the Liberty is 10th. But the difference is that New York can't score. There's no offense coming from them right now, and especially with their leading scorer hurt, it's not going to happen against the Fever. And as far as everyone's saying, like, okay, well, then aren't you going to back the Fever? They're playing a terrible team. Yes, like, and that's why I like your play of Fever +5. I think it was +5, right?
Yep.
I can get on board with that, but I also worry about the team that plays fast that also ranks 10th out of 12th in points per 100 possessions. So they play fast, they just can't score.
Score.
So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think right now odds makers are looking at it from the perspective of Liberty's just got trounced on defense. They're going to give up a bunch of points. I'm thinking neither team is going to have much of an opportunity to score because they're going to go back and forth the entire time, and it's going to end up being a game probably in like the 70s. So 164 feels a tad bit too high. I think that there's some sort of expectation that because both teams are bad, that there's going to be more points scored because there's a lack of defense. I think it's just going to be slow, and then the Fever are going to slow things down because they're just out of gas on a back-to-back playing that fast. Just doesn't feel like an advantageous matchup. So I like the under in that matchup tonight.
I like that a lot because I think you talk about like when you play at a fast pace and you have a low offensive rating, like that's a sign of you are playing an inefficient offense.
Yes.
So it's like that, like you can play super slow. I think the Mavericks in the NBA to kind of tie in, like we're a great example of this. They played super slow this year. They were like dead last in pace, but I believe they were top 12 in offensive rating. So it's like they're just making the most out of their possessions. The Fever are doing the exact opposite. They're making the least out of all these possessions
Right.
that they're getting. And like you said, if the Liberty decide to slow the game down, like now you're asking a Fever team with less possessions to put up points. Like that's just not going to be what their game is. So I like the under too. I honestly might play both of our picks in this one because
Yeah.
I think
Why not?
it's a good
Why
spot.
not?
Yeah.
Daily BetSlip WNBA plays have been great. All right. So before we dive into an early look at the NBA Finals, let's take a quick look, and you can see on the bottom for some of our best bets of the night. But Peter is going with the over on Michael Kopech, 4.5 strikeouts tonight for the White Sox. The Baltimore Orioles at home, you can get them on the run line +1.5 at a reasonable number, I believe -125 against the Seattle Mariners tonight. And then on the WNBA side, likes the Fever as underdogs on the road against the New York Liberty at -110. As for my best bets of the night, give me the Rays in the first 5 innings at -125 against the Texas Rangers. Give me the over on Mitch White strikeouts for the Dodgers at 3.5. And also playing on the Fever and Liberty, but I like the under 164 in that game. So 2 different plays that you can jump on tonight for a little WNBA action. By the way, I should also mention Donovan Smoot gave his play for the other matchup between the Minnesota Lynx and the Atlanta Dream. Highly recommend you guys check out that article over at BetSided as well. And by the way, for all of you guys that are watching us over on Twitter, you can see the live stream going on right now at BetSided. Please go ahead and head on over to YouTube to really be able to interact with the show. It's just search BetSided. You'll see the live stream going on. It gives you an opportunity to weigh in on our game of the night poll. You can also send in any bets that you have or questions that you have about the day's slate. Peter and I are happy to go over them. And then you can also hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. So whenever we go live, you do not miss an opportunity to hang out with us. We are live every single day of the week, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. East Coast time for Daily BetSlip. And then on the weekends, we are here as well for Bet and Breakfast. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern time, Saturdays and Sundays. All right, Pete, time to tee you up, time to get you going, time to get the NBA juices flowing for this upcoming series for the NBA Finals. The odds are out for game 1 between the Celtics and Warriors. The Warriors are 3.5-point favorites. But as far as the series goes, you're talking about a Warriors team right now that's -155 to win the series. The Boston Celtics are +127. Let's kind of start from sort of an outside look and work our way closer in.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Warriors. You and I both have futures tickets on the Warriors. I still like the Warriors to win in this series, but tell me what's led you in the direction of going from a Warriors better on the futures market to now saying this is going to be Boston series to lose.
Yeah, so like you said, I have a Warriors ticket +650. I'm debating hedging it. Gonna wait 100% till after game 1 because I think Golden State might win game 1 just because Boston coming off back-to-back 7-game series, and I feel like you can get them at a better number heading into game 2. But Ben, I said this after the Bucks series, and like I meant it. Like I have to preface this. Like I am a New York basketball fan, as you can see behind me. New York, like I hate Boston sports. I'm not gonna sit here and act. But I said this to Ian on Bet and Breakfast on Sunday. Like we're out here. I'm being transparent with the people. the Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA right now. Like that's just the way this playoffs has gone. I wrote an article over at BetSided. You can read it, why they're the best team. You look at Boston's defense, and this is the thing that has worried me about the Warriors the entire playoffs. They turn the ball over a ton. They turn it over 14.8 times per game this postseason. When you play the number one defense in the NBA, you cannot afford to throw away possessions, especially with how good Boston has been offensively. Like the difference normally in these type of matchups is you see kind of like, oh, the really good defensive team, like offensively, they just don't have as much firepower. Like this Boston team, Warriors offensive rating this playoffs is 116.1. Boston is 111.8. That's not that significant of a drop off, especially considering Boston played a Miami team who loves to slow the ball down and plays really good defense, and a Milwaukee team that had the number one defensive rating in the postseason when they were playing in that series. So when you factor those two things together, it's like, hey, the fact that Boston's even close to Golden State is impressive. And I think the whole thing with this Warriors team is, yeah, they have a ton of different weapons, and I think that's what makes them so dangerous. And Boston clearly has not faced a team like that. But the Celtics have that too. Like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown are two of the best isolation scorers we have in the game today. And this Warriors team, I know Gary Payton and Otto Porter are both questionable for game one. If Gary Payton comes back, great. But the Celtics, like if Andrew Wiggins or Gary Payton aren't on Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they can hunt switches and they can hunt better matchups. Like they're going to expose Jordan Poole in this series because he is a horrible defender. As much as I love Jordan Poole, they're going to expose him in switches. They're going to try and get him matched up on one of those guys. And as much as I think Gary Payton II can make a huge impact for the Warriors on defense, the thing that concerns me is offensively, he's not a liability, but he's not going to knock down threes. So the Celtics are going to be able to leave him to shoot threes. They'll be willing to let Gary Payton take shots. And when you look at Boston's roster, their top 7 guys between Smart, Horford, Williams, Tatum, Brown, Derek White, and Grant Williams are all elite defenders. Like there's not a weak link out of those 7 guys. They're going to play a little bit of Peyton Pritchard probably to give some guys some breathers early in this series. But at the end of the day, when this comes to winning time, it's those 7 guys that are going to be on the floor. There is no weak link for the Warriors to attack. And so what concerns me is, where do like the easy Steph buckets come from? Are they going to get those great backdoor cuts that this Warrior team has been so famous for when they're playing a Boston team that has no problem switching 1 through 5 with any of their 5 guys? I just don't see it being like a walk in the park offensively. And Ben, I want to get your thoughts too. But like the Warriors against the Mavs, they were able to find the advantageous matchup, whether it was for Steph, whether it was for Clay, whether it was for Jordan Poole. Dallas doesn't have 5 good defenders on the floor at all times. The same thing against Denver, the same thing against Memphis. That is not the case against Boston. Boston can go small if the Warriors go small. They can go big and make the Warriors, which is going to be really tough with Kevon Looney and Draymond Green as the only 2 bigs that Steve Kerr really trusts. Like if Robert Williams and Al Horford are on the floor, Boston's going to kill them on the glass. So I think the Warriors are a great team. I just think this is a series the Celtics win. I just feel all the momentum they've built up this postseason, but they're just the better team right now.
So there's a lot to digest there. And you're right. Like from a defensive standpoint, they have the advantage on Golden State. Now, it's not to knock the Warriors. The Warriors are also an elite defensive team. You're talking about the 2. Yeah. I think what's so interesting is that the narrative of this series is top offense against top defense. Like, but that's not necessarily true. Like the Warriors have been a very, very good offense in the postseason. Looking at some of the notes that John Schumann put together over at NBA.com, the Warriors have had the 2 most efficient series in the playoffs. They've scored over 122 points per 100 possessions in the first round and 120.3 in the conference finals. Like that's a big deal, especially given everything that's happened with this Warriors team, because they're going to defend. Even when guys like Poole are on the floor, they still are an elite defending team because they have Draymond there. Thompson plays a 2-way player. I know guys can occasionally get around Curry, but he can still stay with you for a little bit. They're not a bunch of slouches on the defensive side of the floor.
No,
the defensive rating speaks for itself. However, there is an aspect of this team both from a coaching perspective and a player experience when we're talking about dynasty teams that are now back in the finals that make me think that this is not something that they're going to just let go of fairly easily. Yes, Boston can switch on anybody, but the Warriors are going to have a decisive advantage coming out of timeouts, having the experience of playing in the finals, being able to slow down tempo, and then also second half teams like the Warriors, and Donovan Smoot wrote about this over at BetSided today. The Warriors, even more than the Celtics, who have been also a very good second half team, have come out and made necessary adjustments to the highest level in this postseason. And so the fact that they also haven't lost a game at home tells me that they're going to be able to set a precedent in this series right from the very, very beginning. And Boston, as good as they've been, is still having a first-year head coach take over and still dealing with a team that has played in 2 consecutive series going all the way to 7 games. The Warriors are the well-rested team. And normally you might see that take shape with the hotter team coming in, stealing a win. I just have a difficult time seeing Boston steal wins against the team with home court advantage in this postseason when Golden State is as comfortable as they've been in years, particularly because they're finally healthy again.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think it's also fair to bring up that Boston hasn't lost 2 games in a row in the entire playoffs, and they've only lost 2 games in a row one time since late January.
Yeah,
so like this
remarkable.
team, Ime Udoka, I have to give him a ton of credit. Like we talk about first-year head coaches, like he's been fantastic in terms of making adjustments, realizing he's got to shorten his rotation, how they play defensively, and like the crazy thing is first-year head coaches in the finals, we were talking about this the other day, Ben, is not as crazy as you think. Tyronn Lue did it, and they won a finals. David Blatt went to a finals in his first year with the Cavs. Granted, they had LeBron James, but it's been done before. I just think the thing that I keep coming back to for this Warriors team is, like, yes, they have the offense. I just think all of these other series, especially the conference finals and the Nuggets series where they put up these crazy offensive numbers, they were able to exploit the mismatch that they wanted. Whoever it ended up being, they found the mismatch that they got, whether it was Austin Rivers in the Denver Nuggets series or whether it was sometimes Luka or Jalen Brunson or Dwight Powell or Maxi Kleber. They were able to find it. I just don't think you're going to be able to just hunt that out against this Boston team. Like, I don't know who they kind of try and go out. Like if Robert Williams misses game 1, which apparently has been the rumor he's going to be listed as questionable.
Yeah.
Like if Daniel Tice plays, yeah, they're going to attack Daniel Tice. And that will probably be a problem for Boston. But at the same time, like I said, Golden State loves to play small. Their best lineup is if they can go Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry.
Yes.
Boston matches up perfectly with that because they can go Al Horford or Grant Williams, and then they go Tatum, Brown, Derek White, Marcus Smart. Like that, I was worried about this with the Warriors, with both the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat, is both those teams have no problem saying, we'll go small, we'll match up with you, and we're going to put an elite defender at every single position on top of that. And so normally Golden State's way of playing small is they play a big man off the floor or they play somebody into the lineup that isn't as good of a defender. That's not going to be the case with Boston. And the experience definitely matters, don't get me wrong. But I think people are downplaying a little bit of how battle-tested this Celtics team is. I know they've never been in the finals, and I know it's a completely different, environment. But like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been around the block. They've been to several Eastern Conference finals. Marcus Smart has 2. Al Horford's a 14-year vet. Like, this isn't like these guys have never played in a pressure moment before. And they just showed in 2 Game 7s. They blew out the Bucks, and they showed a ton of poise in that Miami game to end up winning that game. So
at the very end, the poise was about to run out if Jimmy Butler makes that.
It almost did. It almost did. Yeah. But it's at the same time, they put themselves in a position like that end of the game run was right after they went like 10-0 the other way to go up 13. So like it's a game of runs. I just think I'm trying to take the experience factor completely out of it because as much as the Warriors do have finals experience, like outside of Steph, Clay, Draymond, Looney, that's it. I mean, Otto Porter's never been to finals. Jordan Poole's never been to finals. Like, I don't know how much Andre Iguodala actually plays in this finals, if he's even worth playing in these finals. Like, Jonathan Kuminga's had to play minutes for them. Gary Payton obviously going to play some kind of a role. Moses Moody played a lot in the conference finals. Those 2 guys are rookies, Moody and Kuminga. So, yes, the big name guys have played in the finals before, but this isn't the Warriors team of 2017 with the Livingstons and the Iguodalas and the Bogut's, and that where everybody on the team was like, yeah, we've done this 4 years straight. So I'm a little skeptical with that, but at the same, I think we're going to get a great series. Like I think this
I
probably
hope so.
goes minimum 6. I would say it has to go minimum 6. I just think there's some value in Boston. I can't. I feel like they're the better team, man. It pains me to say. Every time I say it, I feel like a little part of me is dying. But I really think they might be the better team.
All right, so they're plus 127 to win the series. If you're looking, so you have it the series going 6, or do you have it going 7?
I think it goes Celtics in 7. That's
Okay.
my guess.
Celtics in 7. If you're looking to bet that series specifically over at WinBet, you can get that right now at 6-1. I have the Warriors winning in 6, and that is plus 170. Or yeah, no. I'm sorry, plus 500.
Okay.
So plus 500 for the Warriors to win in 6, plus 600 for the Celtics to win in 7. One last thought before we dive into our game of the night between the Lightning and the Rangers. The two consensus favorites everywhere, doesn't matter where you look, for NBA Finals MVP. Steph Curry, if you think the Warriors are winning, that's even money. And again, that's if you're going to bet the Warriors to win the series, you might as well just bet Steph to win MVP, get it at even odds. Because there's a very difficult situation to envision him not winning MVP if the Warriors end up winning. Jason Tatum plus 165 over on the Boston side. There's also an indication that Marcus Smart has done, it's not an indication, like the numbers back it up. He's been awesome against Curry, like holding him to under 30% shooting, done a really good job of defending it up. And he talked about it, that this is an assignment that he's ready for, that he cannot wait for, that this is like what he has prepared his whole career to be able to do. So is there even value, even if you think the Warriors are going to win, to maybe try and get somebody else, knowing that all this attention is going to be on Steph? Do you look at maybe Clay at 12-1, who started to find his offensive rhythm a little bit? Andrew Wiggins was dynamic for several games in the Western Conference Finals, especially with his rebounding. Do you look another direction and try to say to yourself, I can give myself and present myself the argument to fade Steph to win MVP if I think the Warriors are going to win?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping Steph gets a Finals MVP just because I feel like, I mean, it's going to put him guaranteed top 10 all time, and I think he should already have at least one by now, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, it's Iguodala. I don't think a lot of people are going to disagree with you.
Yeah, the Iguodala one is terrible, but I think Andrew Wiggins might be the guy. Speaking of Andre Iguodala, if we're gonna get an Andre Iguodala-esque Finals MVP, Andrew Wiggins did a great job on Luka Doncic in his time in the Western Conference Finals. Really made life tough on him, and yeah, Luka had his games, but at the same time, LeBron had his games in that Iguodala Finals, and they still gave Iguodala the Finals MVP. So if Andrew Wiggins puts up the offensive numbers he did in the Western Conference Finals and is also guarding Jason Tatum, who I think is more susceptible to having a really like a 10-point game like he did in, I believe it was game 3 of the Heat series. Like I could see the narrative shifting for Andrew Wiggins. I think the narrative was kind of there for him in the Western Conference Finals too. And Steph was just so good offensively that they gave it to him. I would stay away from Klay Thompson because as great as Klay Thompson can be at times, there's been a lot of games in these playoffs where he just hasn't had it. And like not hasn't had it to where he scores 2 points, but like he shoots like 6 for 15 and finishes with 15 points.
Yeah.
I think if he does that in a finals game, there's no way he wins Finals MVP. Jordan Poole, like I said, too risky. I think he's going to get played off the floor at times. And Draymond's just not going to score enough, I think, for them to win Finals MVP. So if it's not Steph, I would assume it's going to be Wiggins or it's going to be something crazy. I maybe Clay goes nuclear for 6 games. We haven't seen him do that since he came back, as well as he has played off of 2 crazy injuries. So I would say Andrew Wiggins, I think he's plus 3,000 right now.
Yes, yeah, he's 30-1 to win
terrible.
NBA Finals MVP. Might be worth a little bit of a sprinkle at that point if you're jumping on board with Golden State. So plenty of intrigue. Ian and Donovan, I know, will be mentioning it tomorrow on Daily Betslip as well ahead of Game 1. They'll be a little bit more focused towards Game 1, but glad to be able to go over the series from in sort of an outside perspective, looking in as we get things going on Thursday night. Let's dive into our game of the night. A little bit of hockey action. Eastern Conference Finals taking place tonight between the New York Rangers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning favorite in this game. They are minus 128 against the Rangers at plus 108. Rangers are at home, I should mention as well. Total in this matchup is 5.5. heavily juiced towards the under at -120. If you're looking for a puck line play, you can get on board with the Lightning at -1 at +125. Rangers are +1 at -145. Where do you want to start here? Do you want to start with the fact that I think a lot of casual fans who are hoping for massive amounts of goals after what they saw last night between the Avalanche and the Oilers are just simply not going to get it? Are you going to go ahead and just let us know that the underdog, the New York Rangers, are going to go ahead and bring this home? Where do you want to kick things off here?
Yeah, I will say do not expect a lot of goals in this game. I'm not going to act like I'm a hockey aficionado, but these are two of the best goalies in all of hockey. Andrei Vasilevsky, I believe is how you say his name, and Igor Shesterkin.
Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. Yeah, not fun if you're hosting a show. I haven't watched much hockey this year, and you're trying to say both of these goaltenders' names.
Not ideal, but no, those guys are seriously two of the best goalies in all of hockey right now. So I think Ian said it the other day. I think he wrote in his series preview, like these are two opposite series.
Yes.
Like the Avalanche Edmonton one is going to be high scoring, fast paced, all that stuff. The Rangers Lightning one is going to be grinded out type of games. I know the Lightning have won back-to-back cups, so obviously there's the experience there, but I think it's really hard to kind of stay away from this Rangers team at home after what they've done the last two series, coming back from 3-1 and then 3-2 deficits. So I'll get into my best bet in a couple seconds, but I think if you're thinking there's going to be a ton of goals in this game, I would like kind of reset that mindset. And like, yes, there were 8 goals in the Rangers game 7, but that has not been the MO the entire playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I'll even just dive into my best bet now. I like the under at 5.5. Maybe it's a little bit square, but I don't envision a scenario where Andrei Vasilevsky, especially to kick things off in a series, that's someone that's going to set a tone. Like, this is somebody that has risen to the occasion over the last several years. In elimination games, he's 5-0, only given up 13 goals. That's a save percentage of 93%. And yeah, the Rangers are coming off a great win, but as Reed Wallach said on the show yesterday, Carolina, who hadn't lost a game at home, folded like a cheap suit. Like, they just allowed the Rangers to feel very comfortable right from the get-go. But I also think that Tampa finally getting a little bit of rest is going to be a good thing for them long-term. Maybe the Rangers are able to steal one where they've played so well at home. At the same time, they have played every other night going all the way back to the early portion of, but like before the Hurricane series started. It's a lot of games going all the way through 7 games. Lightning have had plenty of opportunities to rest. It's a series that I think is going to be more physical than what you saw against the Panthers, because the Panthers were the best offense in hockey. They're the best overall record in hockey. It kind of play a similar style to what you saw from Colorado and Edmonton, and you saw Tampa really take that away. With the Rangers, it's going to be more physical, and you're going to see better forechecks and better opportunities on defense. One thing that I saw, and I want to give credit to NHL.com's Dan Rosen for finding this stat. If Tampa Bay plays the way that they're capable of on the penalty kill, they're going to win this series easily, because the Rangers aren't a good scoring team unless they're on the power play. So if Tampa makes some stupid mistakes, especially in game 1 on the road, and the Rangers score on the power play, that's going to be a decisive factor. They are 8-2 in games where they score on a power play, and they're 0-4 when they don't. But the Lightning have the best penalty kill left in the postseason at 88%. And they killed penalties at 92.3% against the Panthers in round 2. And they're 6-0 in the postseason when they do not allow a goal on the power play. So if the Rangers get one on the board, Peter, on a power play goal, I'm going to go ahead and probably just jump on them live. Otherwise, it's going to be Lightning, and I think they're going to be able to get past the Rangers, who Ian McMillan has basically been telling you to fade the entire way. I think at some point that call is going to be right a little bit later on in the series.
And he's been wrong, and that's why the Rangers are going to win tonight. I'm taking them on the money line.
Okay.
Plus 108. The first thing I will say, MSG is going to be rocking tonight. Like, you talk about best venues in sports, there's no better place than Madison Square Garden. This place is going to be going nuts. The fact that the Rangers are here, they have no business being here. I will agree with that.
They haven't seen a winner in how long?
They
Of
have
course they're going to be
exactly.
rocking. They've been waiting a long
Exactly.
ass time.
And the Rangers have no business being there. So there's going to be like the thought of being back at home. I love the Rangers here, but I actually have some real analysis here other than the Rangers are going to be better at home. But if you look at this game, so this postseason, and Ian has talked about this a ton when you read his stuff at BetSide, we hear that word expected goals, expected goals, expected goals. And it does matter because like it's how many high danger scoring chances you getting, how many good looks are you getting at the net. The difference is the Rangers have the best goalie in the NHL. They have the best player on the ice. We talk about this in other sports. Like when you have the best player, it's things just somehow seem to find a way to even out. It doesn't really matter. We saw it with LeBron in the finals. We see it with there was Jimmy Butler in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like he had no business being there, but Jimmy Butler was the best player on the floor, so they were somehow in there. Igor Shesterkin. So this postseason, the Rangers have been their expected goals against is 3.28 per 60 minutes. Igor Shesterkin is giving up 2.26 goals per 60 minutes, a whole goal less. And people may say, hey, they're, at some point it's going to break. I'm saying I'm going to take the real numbers through 14 games. If he's only allowing 2 goals, this guy's just that good. Like he's that good. This trend doesn't keep up. Like eventually you would think it would come back to the number. It's gotten further and further away from it being like close enough to each other. It's a whole goal at this point. And the Lightning on the other side, we talk about what the Lightning, they have a great goaltender too. Their expected goals against is 2.72. They're only giving up 1.78. So if you want to make the argument of like, oh, it's unsustainable. The same goes for the Lightning. They're at the same point.
The under.
It's a whole exactly what you said. The under is perfect. You had already taken the under. I'm taking the Rangers. I think Shesterkin is the guy to back in this spot. I do understand the Lightning. The rest is probably good for them off of back-to-back Stanley Cup runs, but I mean they haven't played in like a week and a half.
It's been a little bit,
yeah. So I don't mind little momentum for the Rangers in game 1. Maybe they lose in game 2 because you get tired at that point. But I feel like the momentum for the Rangers coming into this game at home, I like them a lot, and I'm surprised they're actually only this short of underdogs. Like I thought people were going to be like hammering the Lightning. So I'm a little disappointed at that, but I will still take them as a dog. I think they win game 1 tonight.
All right. So there you go. Peter on board with the New York Rangers at MSG. You can't take the MSG out of one Peter Dewey. So go ahead and jump on board. Unfortunately, Peter, the community has spoken and they have voted against your New York Rangers. As compelling an argument as it was, the Lightning -128 is going to be our community bet of the night. They like Tampa to go in on the road and silence the rowdy MSG crowd tonight.
I might have to double down and fade the community, Ben. I might have to.
Wow. I mean, the community is the lifeblood of our show. You're going to go ahead and fade them. That won't rile them up at all. So yeah, Lightning is the community pick at -128. Peter gave out his pick of the Rangers as an underdog play. I like the under at 5.5 at -120. Fun show today. Excited to have been able to have the opportunity, Peter, to hang with you. Also, a big shout out to all of you guys for hanging out with us and watching. Shout out to Joanne for producing and directing our show as well for today. On tomorrow's show, Ian McMillan will be on with Donovan Smoot. They will take you through at 5 o'clock Eastern for the Daily Betslip, go through their favorite best bets of the night. You can certainly expect some more NHL plays. I know that Donovan will probably give out a WNBA play as well. And don't forget, it is game 1 of the NBA Finals between the Celtics and the Warriors. So we hope you guys will come back again tomorrow. Also, for plenty more hockey analysis, by the way, check out the rookie versus the vet. That too will reunite on Thursday night here on Daily Betslip at 5 o'clock. So for my guy, Peter, I am Ben. May all of your best bets hit tonight. We will do it again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. Until then, so long.